What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are so excited. I hope you are pumped right now for the most action-packed hour you have ever received in your entire life. Why? Because this hour got it all, baby. Hope, inspiration, motivation, encouragement, empowerment, the whole nine, baby. So grab a chair, pour up a couple shots, let your hair down, and kick those shoes off, and get ready to receive the most jam-packed hour you have ever received in your entire life, baby. Let's go! Woo!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is CeeLo Green, and you are now tuned in to Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. He is not famous at all. Check out this new streaming show. It is perfect. And if you don't, fuck you.
A spring in your step. There is a twinkle in your eye.
I can throw a rhyme down for you real quick. Yes, they call me Thrill. They say that I'm the man. You disagree, how could you? Let me make you understand.
Should we bring her on the show? Can anybody find me? And there she is.
Fresh as some bread. Pull right from the oven. When you feel rejected, you get some like a loving.
Take on me.
She looks wonderful. Mom looks amazing.
Somebody too. Okay, Mom, bugger off now. I've got to show it to you.
Love. Like that?
Joseph Jaffe, ladies and gentlemen.
You just made the new intro of the show. Well, welcome everybody. It is Monday. It is Monday, June 14th. It is very, very soon going to be the longest day of the year. And tonight is not going to feel long at all. Tonight is going to feel short because time flies when you're having fun. Mom looks amazing, says Bob Farnham. And Anna Bowman says, still waiting for LinkedIn to broadcast. I think it is working on this end, but I'm glad you're here and I missed you too. You know what I didn't miss? Well, what I didn't miss was looking at my weight. But fortunately, I lost a bit of weight. I went from about 184 point something to 183.2. And this is going to be the last weigh-in before my surgery. More on that soon. All I remember is that the surgeon said that I was going to be catabolic. And I think my wife heard catatonic, or maybe she wanted to hear that. But I'm not really sure. She claims that she did not hear that at all. But who knows? The jokes are just going to keep on coming, and most of them are going to be bad jokes and dad jokes. And it is what it is. Mr. Michael Donnelly is here, and he says, working on this end, knock him dead best. Michael, it's always good when you are here, my friend. Anna Bowman found that to be hilarious. So at least one person likes what I have to say. So thank you, Anna. Today is World Blood Donor Day. I became a blood donor after 9/11, and I remember going to donate blood and being turned away. Simply because, unfortunately, on that day, they didn't really need blood. But I made a pledge then to continue to donate, and I've donated just under 60 pints. Ironically, I might even need my own coming up, but try not to get too dark with you because this show is about light, damn it. This show is about light. This show is about famous guests, and there are none more famous than Evelyn Starr, who is waiting in the green room, waiting to come on. Roger Firestein, or is it Firestein? We're not going to do the Margot Bloomstein, Frau Blucher, Young Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein. Again, Bill Jensen on Wednesday. And finally, my last show before my hiatus, Tamsin Webster, the red thread, the mistress of the red thread. Have another glass of wine, Joe. Coming in and taping at noon as well. Now, the noon tapings will be live for regulars and Jaffe coin holders. You will be able to watch those tapings live. And I'm actually going to experiment a little bit by actually doing YouTube premieres. at 9. So you will still see the show, if you are new to the show, live at 9. And you know what? I might even be commenting along as well on Tuesday and Thursday. One of the main reasons is that it's actually my son's graduation from middle school on Tuesday, and my other son's graduation from high school on Thursday. So pretty excited for them. Vinny is here. Vinny Call is here. You go, Joseph, she says. And of course, Manif is here. Manif, you continue to buy Jaffe coin like it's going out of fashion, and hopefully it is never going out of fashion. So thank you, my friend, for all of your support. So, as I said, the very famous Evelyn Starr will be in the house soon enough, shortly enough, talking about Teenage Wastebrand. And followed by that, I am so pumped to welcome Cello Phoenix. He's a creator. He is a blind symphonic metal cellist. More on him very soon. I just cannot wait to see just this incredible talent in action. Well, it's 8 days to go. 8. I cannot believe it. 8 days to go before my heart surgery. And as always, I want to thank everyone that has stepped up to my crypto GoFundMe by donating to myself, by showing support, by just saying thank you, I guess, for the past 270 odd episodes. And you can do that at rally.io/creator/Jaffe. I want to thank all of these wonderful people who have stepped up, donating everything from $18 all the way up to $9,000. David Berkowitz, you are all hot, and you are absolutely insane, by the way, just for the record. Completely insane to the brain, to the membrane. But I appreciate your unbelievable generosity. Every single one of these rewards is tied to the show, from a shout out like you just saw on the screen right there, all the way to being actually the host of the show for one episode, or even having an entire customized, private, personalized show done for you and your employees, your clients, whatnot. 10% of the proceeds will be donated to the Mitral Foundation. 8 days. You won't be hearing this pitch in 8 days, because in 8 days, I am going to be Serenity now. That's for sure. Want to wish happy birthday to Mr. Scott Waxenberg, Mr. Ian Wolfman, Natalie Bloom, and today, who do we see? Velda Ruddock, Adam Smola, John J. Wall, Marketing Over Coffee, and Rick Martinez. Hope you guys are having an amazing day. Well, now it is time to get into our seated soliloquy. And my seated soliloquy for you is titled, what is it titled? It is titled, I Want My ... I think you have a good idea what comes next. Does a brand owe its customers anything more than providing a consistent product or service as advertised? And in the case of tech startups or apps, when the service provided itself is free, does a user have even less rights? Case in point, Clubhouse, a mobile app born in the most unusual of times that grew exponentially due to a set of environmental conditions that created the perfect recipe for success. People stuck at home, craving connection, and in an audio-first environment where people were already in shorts and sweats, sounding good was superior to looking good for a change. Every Sunday, the founders of the app would put on a town hall performance that was packed to the virtual rafters, with overflow after overflow room bursting at the seams, hanging on to every word about the next product or feature rollout. There were even post-mortem rooms to discuss and debrief. And then, due to a series of missteps and poor decisions, it seems like the tide turned, the shine wore off, as the original early adopters felt unloved, mistreated, and neglected. Growth slowed. The cultish appeal seemed to be muted. The zealots rebelled. There was discomfort and discontentment amongst the mod squad, or just a bunch of spoiled, entitled, privileged brats just doing what they do best. Complaining about the algorithm, complaining about slow product rollouts, complaining about not feeling the love. I want my clubhouse. But be careful what you wish for. There is a fine line between loyalty and mutiny. Every brand on this planet wants to hit, I want my MTV status with its base, but not many will. Well, not unless they're doing more than just purveying and fulfilling goods and services. Not in a highly commoditized and competitive world. If a brand wants to achieve a transcendent relationship with its customers, paying or non-paying, it has to work harder to earn and keep their trust. And this was the exact conversation discussed on the show last week with Margot Bloomstein, comparing and contrasting Clubhouse's actions with Zoom's. On the flip side, and from the consumer side, it's not fair to have highly unrealistic expectations of a brand, but then again, life isn't fair. And with so much to choose from, the power really does rest these days on the buy side. But I will say, brands do have a say as well. But this careful balancing act boils down, surprise, surprise, to consistency. In this case, consistency of keeping promises, consistency of management of expectations, and consistency of trust. And now somebody that you should trust, somebody that just imbues and embodies trust, Evelyn Starr. Evelyn Starr is an author, brand expert, and marketing consultant with over 25 years of marketing strategy and research experience. She uses her keen powers of observation and insight to help her clients wow their customers and grow their businesses. She specializes in working with brands in adolescence, brands that have stalled after their initial success. Evelyn earned an MBA in marketing from Boston College's Carroll School of Management and graduated with honors from Vassar College with a BA in economics and French. Living in the greater Boston area, her passions include travel, reading, writing, yoga, tea, dark chocolate, and nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit in both her husband and her two children. Let's say hello to Evelyn. Evelyn, welcome to the show. Your debut.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here. I'm excited.
We'll give you the air horn just to make you feel even more famous, because that's what we do here. So, first of all, thank you for stepping in at the 11th hour. Is it the 13th hour? I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So, Evelyn, we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to divulge, and there's just no way we can get to it all. You gave me so much fodder, so much amazing fodder. So instead, we're just going to get into a very, very brief rendition of what we call fun facts. And there's only one little fun fact, which is, and can you believe that actually, life-size figure of Evelyn Starr inside a dormant volcano in Iceland. Tell us about this experience. Sounds amazing.
It was amazing. It was really tremendous. We were on a family trip to Iceland, and my son, who was majoring in geology at the time, has since graduated, really wanted to see a volcano. And so I went researching for trips and found that you could actually go inside this one. On the website, they say it's dormant, but he has told me, in his expert opinion, it is extinct, that all the magma is gone. There's no way this thing's going to erupt again. And so we took a bus out of Reykjavik for about 20 minutes, hiked for 45 minutes along lands that look like, where Game of Thrones was filmed, right? And, dystopian, burnt, charred earth land, and then ended up in something that looked like a window washer's, apparatus outside of a skyscraper. They were lowering us down several at a time, 700 feet down, and we got about 40 minutes to walk around the inside of the volcano. It was really spectacular.
It sounds amazing. And you've just taught me something today, which is you've taught me that there is a difference between dormant and extinct.
Yes.
So which one do we stay away? We stay away from dormant, right? Extinct?
Yes.
Okay. Note to self. Maybe my note to self is just stay away from all forms of volcanoes. But that is our little fun fact. There is so much to talk to you about. And I want to start off, actually, I don't normally get straight into it, but I want to start off with your book. And now when I have authors come in, I get so excited about their books. I just want to basically smother them with book love. So the background is your book. The foreground is your book. In fact, if you look at my background, you can see your book up there as well.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. There's your book. And, not to outdo myself and embarrass myself a little bit more, I would like to even sing your book to you, which goes somewhere like this. Out here in the stream, as in the streaming era, I fight for my dreams. I get my heart into my living. I don't need a fight, 'cause Evelyn's right. Teenage Wastebrand's being written. Yeah, yeah, yeah. How about that? Now,
Wow.
I'll bet you have never had someone introduce your book that way, and hopefully that will be the last time anyone ever does that for you.
That is top level book love. Thank you so much.
So I love this book, and people love you, and I love this beautiful analogy of comparing brands to pimple-faced, adolescent, obstreperous, impossible teenagers. So give us the premise behind the book and why you decided to focus on these awkward teenage adolescent years.
Well, it came out of my own experience, Joseph, because about 10 years into my company, 8 or 9 years, I actually took a little bit of a break because my husband wanted to start his own company. So I cooled off on taking outside clients and worked with him to start a brand new brand and develop it from scratch, which was really exciting. And when I came back to my business and I had to refill my pipeline, I found it really difficult to differentiate myself from other marketing consultants. This is like the cobbler's shoeless children, right? And I thought, 10 years in, this shouldn't be so hard. Why am I having such a tough time? And so I started talking to other business owners and found out that a number of us who had started our businesses in the late 90s or early 2000s were getting stuck several years in after thinking we had made it long enough that we were good. And so as I grappled with how do I differentiate myself, what kind of niche do I need to advertise, I started getting these flashbacks of high school. I felt like I was having an identity crisis. And so since my kids were hitting adolescence and my business was hitting adolescence and I was having thoughts of high school, it just popped into my mind. I wonder if brands can actually have an adolescence. And so I started to research this among other business owners and then with larger brands. And I've been doing that ever since for about 9 years and discovered that, in fact, there are 8 different symptoms you can have that your brand can have that mimic human adolescence.
Now, when you 8 different symptoms, I wonder if those 8 different symptoms might be the ones that just popped onto the screen below us, including but not limited to oversleeping and FOMO. Look, you got to tell me about some of them, but let's start with oversleeping. What does it mean when a brand oversleeps?
When a brand is oversleeping, they are riding the crest of whatever has gotten them. And, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So they're just enjoying, riding some sort of wave and starting to ignore trends in the industry, getting a little bit blindsided with what their competitors are doing. And over time, if they don't wake up and start paying attention to these things, they're going to fall behind. And if you oversleep a really long time, it can kill your brand.
Right, because you oversleep, you miss the job interview, you get a warning, you get fired. It's almost like the concept of the dormant brand that if they oversleep become the extinct brand. How about that?
Lovely. I'm loving it. Good, great volcano analogies here.
So, I mean, I have teenagers, and I was just checking. I was like, oversleeping, check. But I love this idea because sleeping, you can be asleep at the wheel. You can be maybe not asleep, but not awake, not paying attention, not in it to win it. Just kind of watching the world pass you by. So that's one that I loved. What about FOMO? Suffering from FOMO.
So FOMO, in case anybody doesn't know, is fear of missing out. That's the acronym. And brands that suffer from fear of missing out feel compelled to list every single feature and benefit that they have that matches their competitors. They are fearful of not doing that, and thinking that not doing that would leave them out of this consideration set of whatever consumer they're facing. And so what happens when you do that, when you list absolutely everything your competitors have, is that there's no difference between you. There's nothing to distinguish you. There's no reason to choose you over your competitors. And so despite the fear of missing out, the truth is that brands that establish a niche and distinguish themselves and talk about what they don't do as well as what they do, or actually get further and grow faster.
It seems like there was a word that really, caught my eye, and it's the word awkward. Because, I mean, I think everything about being a teenager is trying to find your place in the world, and also recognizing, I guess, the fact that there is a honeymoon period, which is, 0 to 10, when you're the apple of your parents' eye, when you really can do no wrong, when responsibility, when the stakes are so low. And then, of course, in between, teenagers are stuck in the middle, because what happens afterwards is a different set of responsibilities and hardships and challenges, but an exciting one that comes with independence. But it seems this is the purgatory, right? This is the limbo, to be an awkward, adolescent, trying to find your place in the world. And I think it's really refreshing to think about brands in this period of time. Is this necessarily a function of age in terms of a company that's been around for X number of years, or is it more a state of mind?
It's a developmental stage, but it's not a consistent age for every company. Technology companies, for example, tend to hit it way earlier than everyone else because technology develops so quickly that tech years are kind of like dog years. And so you're right, it's not necessarily tied to an age, but I guess you could say it's tied to a mindset. I would classify it more as every brand hitting a stage where they need to figure out who they are. When you launch a company, you don't actually know what's going to take off. And I feel like maybe we need to talk a little bit about what a brand is to get more concrete about this. So a brand is the cumulative impression that you have from every experience you've ever had with that entity, with that name. Okay, so for example, Coca-Cola. Everything you know about them factors into your thoughts about Coca-Cola. And it's not necessarily what they tell you Coca-Cola is, it's what you see them as being. So, for example, my dad drove a truck for Coca-Cola and actually worked packing their pallets when he was in college. So to him, Coca-Cola was this place to earn some extra money and work alongside other college kids and have fun, which was really great. Over time, however, he came to think that the soda was corrosive. And so when we were kids, both he and my mother dissuaded us from drinking it. And he would say to me, that takes the paint off of cars. So to me, while Coca-Cola was a place for him to work and to be with friends and earn some extra money, Coca-Cola to me was something that was very bad for your health. And so neither of those are messages that Coca-Cola has ever put out into the world, right? When I was a kid and my parents were telling me don't drink that, Coca-Cola was telling me they'd like to teach the world to sing. And so what people need to realize is that a brand is in the eye of the beholder. It's what your audience thinks of you, whether it's your customers or your employees, your partners. And so as you bring a brand into the world, you have an initial idea of what it is, but until you get feedback from your audience and see how it takes off, you can't really codify that.
And that, by the way, brings us back to, that third point that I saw here, which is an identity crisis. But it also I can't help but think of Clubhouse. We've been having many conversations. Even the Soliloquy was about Clubhouse, which is what happens, as you said. Tech brands tend to get to that awkward phase, get to those adolescent, obstreperous teenage years a lot quicker. I found this quote for you today. There's always a quote that I have for my guests, and this is your quote. I know I'm supposed to be preparing my teenagers for life and all, but it's hard when they already know everything. Now, this is just about being a parent of a teenager. But I couldn't help but liken this to brands, Evelyn, because when we think about, going through everything from wear a mask to Black Lives Matter to the election to everything like that. This, by the way, Whitney Fleming. Brands always have an answer, right? They always have a quick response. They always have a tweet. They always have an ad for everything. And what they don't have is what we learn as we get older, the ability to listen first and respond later. Maybe that's part of the identity crisis.
It certainly could be. The way I defined identity in the book is sort of two parts. It's based on, it comes from the German-American developmental psychologist Erik Erikson, who said, and I think we can all relate to this, that teens have an identity crisis when they start to grapple with the tension between how they want to be perceived and be as an individual and still fit in with the group. Right. So that's the, threat of FOMO. And, if I declare myself in this one area, will that dissuade my friends from wanting to be with me? And so a brand identity is a combination of its purpose, which is how it wants to be perceived, and its attributes or personality, which is, also part of how it wants to be perceived. So who it wants to be in the world and how it wants to be perceived. And so brands that have a clear sense of their purpose when events such as the ones you described come up probably have a better handle on whether or not responding to those is necessary, or whether or not their audience feels it's important. Right? Not every brand has to comment on everything going on in the world. So those are guidelines the brands can use to make that decision.
Right. Bob Farnham says, if you don't craft your story, your audience will write their own story for you. And that's a beautiful segue, Mr. Farnham, because you just published this post today called Supercharge Your Marketing with Stories. So tell us a little bit about this post, and then I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure. So no one really wants to be sold to, right? The last thing you want is for someone to push something on you. And so Supercharge Your Marketing with Stories is about using stories to sell, because people are much more receptive to stories, and stories also appeal to the way our brains work. We're used to having a story told to us. Stories have a logical order. They organize information in a way that's memorable, and they often cause us to feel something, some sort of emotion. And so using stories in your marketing makes it more likely your audience will give you their attention, and also more likely that you'll persuade them.
You mentioned a whole bunch of beautiful points in this post, but let's start off with who is Ken, and what does he have to do with the Festival of Lights?
Ken is my younger brother. He's about 6 years younger, and his relationship to this post is that when he was about 9 years old, he gave me this little diary for Hanukkah. It was probably a Woolworth sort of dollar thing, and it just touched me so much because we weren't really exchanging. So it meant that he went out of his way to spend some of his allowance to give me a gift. But I don't think I realized at the time the impact of the gift, because a few months later, when I actually started writing in the diary and recording thoughts and feelings and things, I found that I liked to write and I got into the habit. So it ended up having a paramount effect on my life.
Well, actually, in so many cases, this has impacted your life in the most beautiful way. So, first of all, let's. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the one I wanted. Let's give it up for Ken. Applause for the inspiration. Why? Because, even in this article, you talk about, I think this was a company that you used to work for, this book that was put out. You are a big believer in the power of analog, in the power of something tactile, tangible, that you can touch, you can hold, you can feel. Tell us the story about this book. It all began with an apple.
This book was commissioned by the Rouse family, who owned Very Fine Products at the time. Very Fine Products, which was originally New England Apple Company, was a juice company. And they were kind of a sleepy apple juice producing, an apple product producing company, until someone came up with the idea. Some vendor came to them and said, you should be putting juice in 10-ounce bottles. No one's doing that. And so they decided to try it. And at the time, no one was doing single serving juice, and it just took off like crazy. And for a little while, they had the convenience store shelves and supermarket shelves and all sorts of airport locations to themselves. And they grew so fast and went so far that they attracted a lot of competition. But this book is the entire history of that company, which starts way before that happened, and was distributed to every employee there. At the time I came to work for them in 1991, I discovered that so many people were locals working there and had been there for decades. And they knew the members of the family, and they saw themselves as an integral part of the growth of the company. And so commissioning this book and giving it to the employees really stoked their pride, made them feel, part of the brand community, and just made them feel appreciated.
It makes me think of something that I would, if I had to coin it, I would call it high touch marketing. I don't know if it's experiential, yes, but it's like quite literally something you can touch. But it's also just putting that little bit of extra effort. Yeah, and I'm seeing this as a trend right now, where book author after book author is sending me their books, and each one is almost not intentionally trying to outdo the previous one. You're not just getting a book in the mail; you're getting a book in beautiful packaging with tchotchkes. Joe Polizzi sent me chocolate chip cookies. But this is what's leaving an impression as well. You did something, I would say, very different and probably even better, which is you sent a handwritten note. And I read. I'm just making sure that I can, first of all, read your handwriting. But I'm just reading it to myself, and you're talking about getting your vaccine shot, about returning to indoor dining. Please accept this copy of Teenage Wastebrand for your reading pleasure. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts, and fingers crossed, discussing it with you on the show. Sunny regards, Evelyn. Well, guess what? You discussed it on the show, but it's a beautiful handwritten note. It's in your branded purple colors as well. It's the attention to detail. This is what I would call high touch.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in an increasingly technical world, the high touch items are so few and far between that they really stand out. It's ironic to me, because years and years and years ago, everybody was sending you mail. Now, if you actually send something in the mail that's not a solicitation, it really gets attention, because people aren't getting letters. They're not getting notes. They're not getting anything that isn't junk in the mailbox, and everything else is coming to them through their devices.
That's right. And the thing, and the irony, of course, is the very thing that we of a certain age used to do with this thing, which was actually use it as a phone, is the very thing that nobody uses it for, which is how rude someone's actually calling me. Why on earth would they do that? Like, what are they selling? How dare you call me? I mean, it's crazy, right? Everything old is new again. Everything new is old again. But you just wrote this another blog post. Well, not just, but this one was a while ago. But you called it the high ROI of handwritten thank you notes. So this isn't just common sense; it's good business sense, right?
It's very good business sense. And to make it even better, it's actually good for your health, which a lot of people, I think, discovered over the past year plus, because expressing gratitude actually calms people. It makes you feel good. It connects you to people. And so you actually feel better, and can improve your mood by expressing gratitude.
Well, I actually had no idea that it was connected to probably mental and physical health as well. I think also what happens is it slows you down, right? It slows you down. You take the time to actually think each letter through. You can't hit the delete button. I've been spending time actually talking to my kids recently just about, my mom used to have this electric typewriter that must have weighed 50 pounds. And we would take it home from her her shop when we had a project to do. And what made this unbelievable was it was electric, so it could type rather quickly, and you could delete letter by letter. It had a thing that would have like a equivalent of like a whiteout, but you could actually delete like a word. What a luxury to be able to actually go back instead of a strike through. And it's funny because, we talk about those stories now, and it is a story, but it's not about nostalgia. It actually represents something that I think is very current and resonant, which is the ability to be mindful, which is something that I know you watched the interview with Daniel Gutierrez.
Yes.
Mindfulness is, I think that is our mission. I think that is humanity's mission right now.
I agree. And I've definitely used it to help me get through the pandemic. In addition to just improving my life overall, there are moments, I don't mind admitting that early on, very early on in the pandemic, there were days where I woke up kind of panicked, so I had to change my schedule. I used to do yoga in the evenings during the week to save my morning time for writing. I was not able to write when I was in panic mode, so I started doing yoga in the morning, and then several times a day where we take time to deliberately pause, notice my surrounding, concentrate on my breath, and that's how I maintained my sanity.
So that, to me, this has been such a beautiful conversation, because everything has just naturally segued into like the next thing. And in some cases, it's like, we'll never get to everything, but we're kind of getting to everything in a way that just seems ordered and calming and peaceful. Because you mentioned something else, that there's a trend developing, which is people taking extended breaks. This is obviously very personal for me because I'm about to take an extended break. And a forced one, an enforced one,
Yeah.
but a break nonetheless. And what I realized is I had not taken a day off basically since March of last year. I've been doing this show every single day, and and I've been hearing on the show so many people talking about the biggest enemy right now in this return to a new normal is burnout.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about this trend of extended breaks. Our mutual and very good friend Mark Schaefer just took one. I'm about to take one. You've taken one, or you're taking one, right?
Right. I'm going to actually take the month of August. I decided this back last winter, in part inspired by what Mark did, and also in part noticing that I had taken very little time off like you, and I was in the process of producing the book and getting it out and realizing that I was running on fumes. And so I thought, well, if I'm running on fumes in November, December of last year, and I still really wanted to get the book out and get it into the world, that I was not going to be able to keep running endlessly without doing something to recharge.
How does one know when one is, my mother would approve that I use the third person, one and one, when one needs to take that break, when one is running on fumes? How do you know? What are the signs that you are in fume mode?
For me, it was feeling like I was moving through molasses, that everything was harder to get accomplished than it had been before, a lack of enthusiasm for certain things that I normally loved, and a general apathy in certain areas. I hate to say that, but that's what I noticed on myself. I thought, well, social media, I'm a marketing consultant. I'm supposed to be on social media all this time. And yet I kind of like being away from it. And I don't really feel like I need to respond to everything. And so, um, you know, some of that is healthy, but at a certain point when you just really don't want to do it at all, and you used to enjoy it, then that's a warning signal.
Unfortunately, I'm being called out right now by some of our regulars. Manif said the doctor said one glass, not half a bottle glass. I promised my family that I wouldn't make the same bad joke about it is one glass. So I just want to say, guys, this was not on me. I will drink it slowly, Manif. How about that? I just want to say, Carl Sean Watkins said, I'm stopping by to show some love on a Monday night. We appreciate your love. And just look at some of the comments. David Libby actually asked this question in the time we have left, which I wanted to ask you, Evelyn, which is, how does 100-year-old brand identify with a teenager or vice versa? Now, I love this question because is this an identity crisis, or in fact, I think you've said it's a mindset. How do you answer this question?
I think it would be rare that 100-year-old brand would qualify as a brand in adolescence as I've defined it, because if they've gone on that long and lasted that long, this is probably not the first time that they're stalling out after their initial momentum, which is how I describe brands in adolescence. They're brands that stall after their initial momentum, which can run for a few years, but maybe not 100. In the case of a 100-year-old brand, I would say it would be like Oversleeping, but probably they've ceased to evolve at some point and need to do some catching up. But I wouldn't see the 100-year-old brand as a brand in adolescence.
And I would probably say, just to stay on this beautifully, beautifully rich metaphor or analogy, Manif would appreciate this because he's a startup guy. If you are a 100-year-old brand, then it's time to have a child, right? Or at least not at 100, otherwise it's very biblical. But the idea that you should have a child that is, in fact, the equivalent of a teenager. And maybe the analogy there is the ability to break up or break itself up or spin off or start a new division or a new innovative line extension. Maybe that's the implication. Instead of trying to be young when that ship has sailed, find that youth or enjoy that youth through your offspring.
Well, that may be the case, but a brand that has defined their purpose well will not have their purpose tied to a product or a function. They will have it tied to some sort of service to the world. Well, Life is Good is not that old a brand, but they're in business to spread optimism, for example. and Starbucks is in business to be the corner shop and bring people together in the neighborhood. And so what is likely to happen if you make it to 100 is the way in which you execute that purpose will have morphed from time to time based on what society looks like.
So Evelyn, I have loved this walk with you. I feel like we're on our extended vacations already. Evelyn and Joe discussing brands and the evolution of brands. Manif says, true, Joseph, that usually happens through acquisitions. Yeah, I guess that's another way. Provided that they don't smother the culture, right? That they embrace the culture maybe of an acquisition. Your story, your new story, is the gift that keeps on giving, Evelyn. The book is called Teenage Wastebrand: How Your Brand Can Stop Struggling and Start Scaling. That's the magic word. It is the return to growth. If a brand has stalled, it means it stopped growing. And growing, of course, doesn't always mean growing out. It also means growing up.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
So Evelyn, I'm gonna give you a chance to go and get that glass of wine if you want, because now it's time to bring on our creator, our performer. So Evelyn, watch from the green room, enjoy. I will be as well, and we welcome you back in a few moments.
Thank you.
Well, that was Evelyn Starr. She is the star, right? She is the star of Teenage Wastebrand, hopefully never sung again by someone like me. I will give you the links as well. I've already put the link to buy the book on Amazon.com. But now it is time to get into for now I'm calling it the Creator Corner. Maybe there'll be another name for it at some point, but I'm calling it Creator Corner. And I want you to meet a very, very special man. He goes by Cello Phoenix. He's a blind symphonic metal cellist, film score composer, dancer, author. And I have no idea how to even pronounce this, but I'm going to go with Erhuist, and pianist. Cello, welcome to the show. Tell us, what is the word? What am I not getting right? We can't actually hear you. Yours. I think your connection might be a little bit out. And now you've left me hanging, my friend, because I've got to try and figure out what that word erhuist is. We'll let you maybe just reset your router quickly, and I'll bring Evelyn back. Evelyn, what's the word I'm looking for?
My guess would be erhuist, but I'm as new to that word as you are. I don't think I'd seen it before, so I'd be hitting the dictionary and listening to how they pronounced it.
Well, I'm definitely hoping that Cello will come back. I think we might have. So I think he's having a little bit of technical issues. Cello, I don't even know how you're doing what you're doing, by the way. That's how exceptional you are. So we're going to put you into the green room at the moment, and and I'm happy to hang around with you for a little bit longer if you are, Evelyn.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
So Evelyn, give me a couple more of those traits of the adolescent teenage Wastebrand.
So if your brand is having trouble sustaining itself with your current target audience, you might be running with the wrong crowd. Running with the wrong crowd could also come into play if you have toxic customers that are absorbing more of your resources and not really returning to you the kinds of revenues that they should for the time and effort that they're asking for. And so, by toxic customers, I'm talking about the people that are calling you night and day, they're demanding unreasonable things, they're looking to renegotiate settled contracts, those kinds of things. Another one that I had fun naming is called Defending Your Varsity Spot. So earlier when we talked about FOMO, I said that you really need a niche. You need to stand out and distinguish yourself and put a stake in the ground for where you want your business to be and how you want to be known. And so what happens for a lot of companies is they start out because the founder has discovered a problem for which there's no solution or not a solution that they like. So they create one. And because there is nothing like what they've created, or there's very few, they have a lot of white space and running room to build a business for a while. But any successful business is going to attract competition. And eventually, after a number of years, the original competitor is going to find themselves so crowded in their marketplace that the only way to grow is to steal market share. And so that I call needing to defend your varsity spot, so that you need to go even further into your niche and reassert your market leadership. And the best example, my favorite example of this is FedEx, which used to be Federal Express. When Federal Express first started, no one thought overnight delivery was possible. It was really unfathomable. The post office was fairly unreliable in that way. And so when FedEx started business, people were skeptical, but they were interested. In fact, Xerox sent empty boxes for 2 weeks before they put documents in them because they really didn't trust it. And so, but of course, over time, they established a reliable reputation, and they serve the market well, and so they got a lot of competition, right? They have UPS and DHL and all these other services. And so 20 years into their business, all of a sudden, there's a lot of competition. And FedEx wanted to remind people that they were the original. And so what they did was they effected a rebrand where they changed their name from Federal Express to FedEx, and they instituted all sorts of great measures like tracking systems and ability to ship to China and all these other things their competitors weren't doing, sort of leapfrogging them and showing once again that they were the leader in the overnight delivery or close to overnight delivery category.
So I didn't actually need to go to more fun facts about you, but now that we have a little bit of extra time, you're going to have to tell us about the fact that based on a school-mandated career test in 8th grade, your guidance counselor said you would make a great farmer's wife. I mean, that is so wrong on so many levels. I mean, why couldn't you just make a great farmer? You know,
Well,
I mean,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to be, it wasn't, you know, you couldn't just be the farmer, which was also interesting because, you know, I suppose from, you know, part of the reason was that you scored high in agriculture.
Yeah, it's, do we have a couple minutes for a story?
We have, we at the moment, we have a few minutes.
Okay.
Please tell us.
Okay. So, what I want to start out by saying is that I grew up in northern New Jersey, outside of New York, and my father commuted into the city every day. And so he would come home from work, and every day, right before dinner, after he changed out of his suit, we would chat, and he would teach me about business. And so, you know, interest rates and float. He was in finance. And I got an interest in business that way, and, you know, told him I was going to be president of IBM when I was 9 years old, something like that. Fast forward to 8th grade, where they decide that all the kids should have some education in possible careers and perhaps some testing to see what they were good at. And the great state of New Jersey administered to us something called a Cooter test. I don't know what the Cooter test is like now because the company is still in business, but when we took it then, it was really wild. It was a set of choices that we had to make that would determine what we were good at. And the every set had 3 options, and there was a column for M for most and L for least, and you had to choose the choice you like most, the choice you like least, and leave the middle one out. And so there were dozens of these choices, and Joseph, they were so weird. They were, for example, would you rather read a book, you know, have a haircut, or watch an execution? You know, really wild, strange, not comparable stuff. And so after they computed all of the results.
Can I just say, I would rather read your book. But other than that,
Thank
the
you.
execution. I'm just saying execution, except if it's your book. But please carry on.
Thank you. I'm heartened by your choice.
Yeah, I think.
So somehow they took the responses of all these choices, what you most and least like, threw them into a computer and came up with a graph showing your strengths. And then you got an appointment with your guidance counselor to discuss the results. And so my father, who had commuted in and out of New York City all the time, usually never went to my school meetings. That, my mother used to do that because she was local and she was also a teacher, and so she had that relatability. But this particular time, since it was about my career, my father decided to take a half a day off and comes with us in his suit to this meeting. My guidance counselor, an older man named Mr. Crow with a shock of white hair, pulls out the graph with my test results and says, well, she scored high in math, high in art, and high in agriculture. My father's in finance, and my mother is an artist and an art teacher, so the math and art weren't actually newsworthy. So Mr. Crow decided, to his detriment, to run with agriculture and said, well, I guess she could be a farmer's wife. My father said, really? Well, she scored high in agriculture. Couldn't she run the farm herself? And Mr. Crow said, well, yeah, I guess. And then my father said, in fact, couldn't she run a network of farms? And what does she need the guy for anyway?
I like that. And by the way, you could have easily become the dean of Cornell, which is big on agriculture. Evelyn, I think we might have Cello back.
Oh, I hope so.
I am going to see if we can bring him back on.
Okay.
Cello, welcome back. Are you good, my friend? I'll put you into the background for now, Evelyn, and we'll see how it goes. Hey, Cello, can you hear me? I'll let him. I'll let him get settled. I have to say, I mean, what we are witnessing is just, it's just remarkable. I think he's doing it all by himself. Cello, I will stay here as long as it takes. I can. Can you hear us?
Oh my gosh. I can hear you. Can you see me at all?
I can.
Okay, good.
Welcome. You know what? We had some technical difficulties. Is anybody helping you with this?
No, this is all me.
I don't even want to know how. But I'm going to say, are you ready to? You've already wowed us. But if you are ready to perform your brand new piece, Asia, I just want to give you the platform and give you the stage to take it away.
All right, thank you very much. So yes, this is I just completed this last night my time, and before I'll say a little bit about it. So when I started composing in October, and I wanted to write music, but since I didn't have any actual training, I just took master classes at Masterclass from Hans Zimmer and Danny Elfman. So I was like, how do I do it? And since I already had 3 book series under my belt on the at Wattpad, I was just like, well, you know what? Why don't I write music to my book characters in 2 different scenes from the book? So when I started writing them, I came out like really out there piece called Veritas, the Agent of Chaos, and I took apart and smashed them back together to really illustrate how chaos and insanity walk hand in hand with this character. So since Asia is the protagonist to that antagonist, I was like, well, you know what? I'm about to be really lazy and really work this around the way not only the way I want to, but the way I can envision how I visualize her fighting with Veritas. So yeah, without further ado, this is my really easy piece, Asia / the Asian art. The Asia, yeah. Asia, just Asia. Let's see. Actually, hold on. I'm having technical difficulties over here. I can never seem to work.
You know what? Take your time. Take your time. Take as much time as you want.
Thank you so much.
You know, one of the beautiful things about doing a talk show in the streaming era is it's you know, it's our time. There's no, you know, there's an artificial start date, but there's no, you know, there's no end time. So take as long as you want.
Thank you. Actually, as I over here and work my little battery magic, I'll say that I actually did score this piece around. Actually, there we go. Hold on. Oh my gosh. For some reason, my batteries don't want to work.
You know, as from my perspective, you let me know if it's working, and if not, you can come back anytime this week. By the way, that cello is unbelievable. Evelyn was just saying.
Thank you.
Evelyn, isn't that amazing?
And yes, it is. It's aesthetically gorgeous and very interesting to me in how open it is.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? All right, so this, let's try this again. Oh my gosh, I swear it's this battery. I actually may have to get another one because for whatever reason these are not working. But yeah, hold on. Let me just make sure that it is the battery because I'm pretty sure it is.
I was just going to say, you've shown us so much already tonight, and you know, if you want to take more time, we'll wait here with you. I'm sure Evelyn has more stories. In fact, I don't doubt that for a second.
All right, you know what? Let me let me go and get another because it is the battery. My batteries are dying, of course. On this night, they would die on me.
You know what? As I said to me, this is about as real as it gets. As long as Evelyn will still stay with us.
I'm here.
Cello, just go to your thing. I'll put you into the green room and just text us when you can. All right. So what else did we learn about Evelyn Starr? No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything else. Evelyn, how did we meet? Did we met through an introduction? Was it through Mark Schaefer or was it through? I know we started chatting on LinkedIn, and it was just joyous because every single interaction that we had was just, everything you do is very considered and considerate.
Oh, thank you. I think the first person I heard about you from, which is not really English, but hey, I haven't had my wine yet, so is Melissa Wilson. I
Yes.
know you were working with, talking to her and working with her to connect with Mark, and also I think Tom Peters at the time, and then I think you've since had a number of other people who were working with her on there, and so she and I were talking quite a while ago, and she mentioned you, so I looked you up and I watched a show, and and I think I reached out on LinkedIn, and I think that's how everything started.
And you still wanted to come on the show after all of that?
Yes, I still did.
You're regretting it now. It'll be like midnight, and you'll be like, seriously, no more stories. And what many people don't know is that Evelyn was voted most likely to become a fireman, based on an aptitude. No, I'm kidding. A fireman's second cousin through marriage, which certainly beats the agriculture story as well. But it's been great, and you know what? There was something as well as we got to know each other. To me, this is like such a microcosm, not a microcosm, but it's just an absolute best practice. First of all, you came referred through an amazing person, and as the saying goes, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but also a considered, trusted referral. Which, if brands could actually just follow that guideline, they'd be in a much better place. But the second thing is, as I said, every interaction was just very thoughtful. And you would watch the show and you would comment. And so, and I was going to reach out anyway for you to come on the show. And then someone said, you should have Evelyn Starr on your show. And I said, I'm going to do it. Give me a chance. So that was our story.
That was our story. And I think actually when we connected that the book wasn't out yet also. So
That's right.
I think that was, we had it in mind to wait until that happened.
But it just shows you as well that if, people are trying to, like, I always say to people, like, you can probably connect with the most, well, I'm clearly not famous, but you can connect with famous people by just becoming a regular, by commenting, so many of Howard Stern's regulars just were super fans, right?
Yes.
And it's all right. Cello says he's ready. Cello, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, we're gonna let you go into it. I'm gonna mute Evelyn and myself. We are crossing fingers and hoping for the best. And you know what? Even if it doesn't work out this time, that cello is just so goddamn good looking.
Thank you.
As are you. All right, take it away.
All right. One more time. Third time's the charm, right?
Cello, I will tell you that here's what I'll tell you. I will say that the tech may not have cooperated tonight, but your beautiful smile and your unbelievable talent and your grit, your perseverance, your ridiculously cool looking cello, you know, you kind of stole our hearts. And you know what, when the tech is working a little bit better, you come back anytime, my friend. That was, I mean,
Thank you so much.
It was amazing. I mean, it was amazing. You know, the connection wasn't great, but I think we got I think we got a glimpse as to just this unbelievable talent that you have. Evelyn, what did you think?
Thank you
Manif
so
says,
much.
by the way, love the performance and the beautiful laugh.
Yeah. Oh, I do love your laugh. That's true. But I was, I was moved. I was able to hear enough to, put together. I loved it. I loved it. And the visual betrayed you because you could tell that you were, we couldn't see the virtuoso that you are, the cello, but we could hear it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I want to, it was worth the wait. This now officially is my longest episode ever. So you have the record, and I hope it is always yours, Cello and Evelyn. This was a special night for me. It's the last Monday show before I go in for heart surgery. But my heart is full, and my heart is filled with love for talent, for stories, and most importantly, for the fact that with everything, we always look to Chuck Norris to tell us whether we were hit or miss. And here's what Chuck had to say about you, Cello, and you, Evelyn.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
See what I mean? I will be back tomorrow at 12. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.